Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about the film Annihilation. This is a film by writer-director Alex Garland, who wrote a film that I really liked called Dread, and he also directed a film that I relatively liked called Ex Machina. I think he also wrote that one as well. But yeah, for the most part, I really like the film Dread. He did only write it, he didn't direct it, and of course I love that movie. I think it's a great adaptation of the Judge Dredd comic books. With Ex Machina, I think he did, like I said, wrote and directed it. Really, I liked a lot of it. There's a lot of things about it I didn't really care for, but there was a lot of things about it that set a lot of promise and a lot of potential that he had for later projects. So I guess that's where we go into Annihilation, which is his second time as a director in a film, I believe. And in this film, you guys, it's actually a film adaptation of a book that I just found out about this book series. I guess it came out a couple years ago. Um, and I guess this first series of books, and the first one, it's just called Annihilation, just like this movie. And in this movie, guys, it's about a invaded ecosystem of sorts. It takes over an area of the Earth that is kind of like a swamp slash forest slash beach area, kind of all three of those things into one. It just invaded that area, but it could get worse if they don't figure out what the problem is. So what they do is there is this organization that recruits people of science of all different kinds, mostly people who have experience in the military, so they can work how to they know how to handle guns and weapons and things of that nature in case they run into such things. In case they run into any kind of threats at all, I should say, while in this thing called the Shimmer, as they call it. That's what this invaded ecosystem is called, the Shimmer. And they keep sending people in, they keep sending people in of different backgrounds, and for a while it's mostly men. And so how they decide to go about it is they say, well, for this new round of people, why don't we send in a group of women? And just like the men, they have a scientific background, they'll all have different kinds of science backgrounds, and hopefully this will work out better. Maybe there's something about men going into this thing that doesn't work out very well. So of course, a character played by Natalie Portman, a character played by Tessa Thompson, character played by Gina Rodriguez, just tons of people. Jennifer Jason Leigh is another one of them too. I would say about 5 or 6 women, I guess, go into this Shimmer now. So they're sent in and they have to figure out what exactly is going on. Is this a problem? What exactly does this thing around this area of the Earth? What is it doing to it? Is it making it worse? What exactly is it? What kind of threats does it bring? If it does spread, what do we have to do to make sure that people are safe? So basically, these women are sent in. They have to figure out all the biological stuff, the chemistry related stuff. One of them's a psychologist, so she has to figure out the psychological part of all this. So there's a lot that they have to handle, and unfortunately, time is running against them because if they don't hurry, this thing called the Shimmer could spread to even more parts of the Earth. And if they really don't know what it is, those people are going to suffer too. Because if there's animals or plants or oxygen even that is harmful in this area, the places that are basically invaded by the Shimmer are going to have those problems too. So these women have to run against the clock. They have to figure out what it is that's doing all this. And while they're in the Shimmer, they're starting to figure out things about it that we kind of even didn't think to consider in the first place. So overall, guys, I really enjoyed Annihilation a lot. It's a very smart movie, kind of like Ex Machina. There's a lot of smart science in it, a lot of science that's relevant, that's real. It's not fictional. Even though this is a sci-fi story, there is a lot of real science applied to this movie. So I think that's really cool. It kept me guessing the whole time. There's just so many things about Annihilation that I really, really enjoyed. So let's go over some of those positives and negatives for Annihilation. For my positive of the movie, I really do think this is a unique and original movie, and I really can't say that a lot about a lot of films these days. And for being a film that kind of borrows elements from other movies like Alien, like Predator, um, like Prometheus, like basically any survival film in a forest or jungle, really, for borrowing from so many different kind of films, um, this film really does kind of do its own thing. It really does have visuals like no other. It really does pursue an adventure and an expedition and a research mission of sorts, all in its kind of unique, original way. So that's something I really praised about this movie and really do compliment this movie on. Is it really does feel unique and original. Another thing about this world that they go into, called the Shimmer once again, um, I like how this world feels like it's trying to learn what Earth is. You really get this sense that whatever this Shimmer is, however it got to Earth, whatever planet it came from, if it came from another planet, it's trying to learn about Earth. It's trying to learn how the animals work and how the animals eat things and how they, what kind of prey they go for when they get hungry and stuff like that. So I like how this world, and I really can't get into too much detail about it with the people in this, because there is, when people start to go into the Shimmer, that it starts to learn about that stuff too. But I like how the world that they go into, the Shimmer, that I should say, um, it's constantly trying to learn about Earth. It's trying to figure out how Earth works and what kind of living organisms live on it. And that goes to my next point. It's a very mysterious film. I really was kind of trying to guess what was going to happen next, because it really is kind of a film that kind of just throws a loop at you and really kind of takes it into directions that you really weren't guessing at first. So it's just a very mysterious film throughout, and that's once again very high praise for this movie. Also, this film has great visuals. There's even some visuals in this film where you would swear that this place exists somewhere, just because some of these visuals really do look that good. Whether this is on a soundstage somewhere or out in the real world where they added CGI elements on later on, these visuals do look really good. Like I said, it really does feel like a place you could live and breathe and live in somehow, some way, if you can. But like I said, great visuals in this film. They did a terrific job with the CGI team in this movie. I also thought the characters in this film were very interesting and very fitting for a story like this. I like how there is all these female characters of all different kind of science backgrounds: a biologist, a chemist, a psychologist, somebody who studies nature and things of that nature and stuff like that. Just very fitting characters for a story like this. If it's going to be a movie about science, put science characters into this movie. Just very interesting. I got invested in their background whenever the film went over these background of these characters. Um, Interesting and fitting for this movie, that really works out really well. And like I mentioned earlier in the review, this film does apply smart science to this movie. The science that they use in this story really is very smart, really does feel like something that exists in the real world if something like this were to happen. Just things that you would go to any kind of science facility and ask questions for, and they would have answers for you. It really is science fiction that really does borrow from real world science a lot in this movie. I also like how this film makes you think and leaves things open. It's not one of those films where it gives you all the answers. It leaves several elements open for you to interpret on your own, and just kind of interpret it the way that you want to feel and how you react to it. And it makes you think and guess as to what might happen next. And you're not really going to know just because there's so many loops and turns that this film throws at you. So just really interesting stuff in this movie. And that goes to my last positive point of the movie, is it does keep you guessing. I really did not know how this story was going to play out in certain moments. I really did not know who was going to survive and so forth. So that really is, once again, a huge praise to this movie and this director and writer for keeping you guessing throughout the whole movie. But for my negatives of Annihilation, it's not a perfect film, unfortunately. Some of my negatives of the film is it's very slow moving. It's a film that, even though it has very unique and interesting, thought provoking points to it, it's very slow. It takes a long time to kind of get to those major story points that the film's trying to say. It really does move along at a sluggish pace, unfortunately. Another negative I had is the musical score really didn't work for me very much, but it's kind of weird. Somebody who I saw the film with really loved the musical score, but I think the direction they were going for with the music in this is because there's so much crossbreeding and animals and plants that don't normally work together in nature. My guess is the musical score was trying to be different than you would expect for something like this, and as to kind of represent that anything's possible within the Shimmer. But as a musical score and how they translate that to the screen for a musical score idea, I don't think that works very well. I really would have preferred a traditional science fiction score for this movie that would have been more fitting. So unfortunately, the musical score in this film really didn't work for me very well. And some of the rules within the Shimmer really don't make any sense at all. Some characters, I would say two or three of them have like the same faith roughly, while other characters have fates within the Shimmer that really aren't very explained very well. Some of them literally is just there to be like, hey, this person can turn into this because other people who went into the Shimmer also turned into this too. So there's certain things like that that really didn't make sense in this movie. So I thought some of the rules could have been better established for the story. There's also some information to us that's given us really, really late in the game in the movie and really late in the game in the story. And I think that goes to the editing. Some of the scenes just feel like they're not placed into the story correctly. Things about Natalie Portman's character, things about this other character that she knows from the university that she works with. There's information about him that's given out later on in the movie, too. Just some of the editing felt like it just felt like scenes that should have happened earlier in the movie, but for some odd reason in the editing room, they happened way later in the story than they probably should have happened. And then my last negative of the movie is some of the scenes just really lack common sense. To tell you the truth, one big one for me was if something like this were to really happen, the Shimmer, I guess. Um, when people have like oxygen suits and wouldn't they send in I don't know. I feel like the way they sent people in, like without oxygen masks, without oxygen suits, without just things that, since we really don't know what it is, you'd think they would take even more safety precautions with this thing. And I really feel like just, hey, we need people of scientific backgrounds. Walk right in there and let us know how it goes. Or like, give them walkie talkies. Do something that at least can get out of the Shimmer and let them know if they're in trouble or something like that. So just things like that that lacked common sense that really didn't make much sense to me. But overall, I'm going to give Annihilation an 8.5 out of 10. There's a ton of things to love about this movie, as you might have saw by all my positive points. But there's also some things about it on a technical level that really don't really work very well in this movie. But like I said, tons of positive things to say about it. I am going to give it an 8.5 out of 10, which is a very good score for me. But just go into the movie knowing that some of these points are probably not going to work for you, just like how some of these points didn't really work for me very well. But like I said, there's tons of things to love about it. So 8.5 out of 10 for me. I do highly recommend Annihilation.